be coming around to you. Just kind of give you an idea of what the premiums were of those sales, and then we'll talk some more about that as we go on. We always think of what is value enhancement. Well, we have to add money to something. I think the beef industry for years and years has constantly been trying to cut back, and that's the first thing we want to do in a drought. And I think there's some things that we can do to our calf crop to try to add value to those calves. And sometimes that may require adding inputs, adding feed inputs, implants, vaccinations, and we'll go over some of these things in more detail. But the time of completely cutting costs to add value to the cow herd is over, and I truly believe that. I see a lot of producers that are just weaning those calves directly off the cow because we're getting high cattle prices and we don't have anything to put into them. And I really believe we're leaving a lot of money on the table when we do that. And so I always share with producers we have to add value, improve efficiency, and then we have to market those cattle. I was at a livestock auctioneer's market or a meeting on Sunday, and I used the word sale barn, and those guys about slapped me so hard it wasn't even funny. And I knew I wasn't supposed to use the word sale barn, but we're going to market those cattle now. We're not selling them, and all those three things combined hopefully increases profitability. That's what we're trying for. I always use these chicken wings as a perfect example of a product that we've added value to something when talking to producers. They have taken a part of the chicken that, quite frankly, is disgusting until you fry it up and put some barbecue sauce on it, right? And then they're marketing it through Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever while I go watch, hopefully, OSU beat Kansas tomorrow night. But we got to see it once. Hopefully we'll see it again, but I don't know. But anyway, in 1980, chicken wings were about 46 cents a pound, and it's even higher than $1.60 nowadays. I don't know what it is because I don't keep up on the poultry industry very well. But anyway, an excellent example of adding value to something that doesn't really have that much value. One thing I enjoy about my job is I get to spend a lot of time in sale barns and ranches and feedlots and seeing what those feedlot operators and those growers are willing to pay for. And first and foremost, it's genetics. I think Lawman may have talked about liquidating cow herds, and I know you guys have seen that. And so if we're going to have fewer cows, first and foremost, we have to have better genetics. And I think that's it. I think everybody knows that already. And then information, record keeping. We need to know which cows we can keep. And once again, that sounds simple, but there's a lot of producers that have no idea which cow even calve, let alone which is the better cow in the place. And then vaccinations, we'll visit some more about vaccinations. Easy management practices that don't cost very much, like dehorning, castration. Weaning those calves, preconditioning those calves, there is still profitability in that. It's expensive, but there is profitability in weaning and preconditioning those calves. Hide color, I don't think is quite as important as it used to be. If you talk to Angus guys and CAB guys, they'll tell you it is. But I tell you what, the feedlots are just looking for quality cattle right now that have high or good feed conversions. And then age and source, we'll talk about a little bit. The Japanese market's opened up, and age and source is not nearly as important as it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. Again, genetics is number one in terms of marketing cattle, and then record keeping. What records are we going to keep? Even if it's just basic birth weights and weaning weights and simple records like that, that's fine. Let's try to run our cows over a scale. So we even know what size of cow we got. A lot of producers say, I got a 1,150, 1,200 pound cow. When they actually take them and get a weight on those cows are weighing 1,500, 1,600 pounds. And I think we know those bigger cows eat a lot more forage, especially in times of drought as compared to these smaller cows. What's our planned mating going to do? It's important to make these decisions. Once again, we don't have as many cows in the country, and we need to make better cows and calves of the cattle that we do have. Again, nutrition, it's easier to feed one set of similar like calves instead of calves that are spread out, calving all year long. And then we need to have good records when we go to market those calves. Anytime we have more information on something, we can pass that along, and it's valuable to the buyer. And a lot of times I have verification, and we're going to talk about some verification programs here in just a second. But we have to have this information to be able to verify those cattle. And many of these verification programs, it starts at birth, when those calves are hitting the ground, which is right now. Again, calving season is important, and I'm not going to go into the cow side of it. But one thing it does is increases calf uniformity. We've made our breeding selections. We have high quality genetics out there, and that calf crop is more uniform. And anytime it goes to the sale barn, or livestock auction, like I said, I got slapped for that the other day. But going through the livestock auction, we see anywhere to $2 to $7 a hundredweight with a uniform calf crop. And again, we've decreased calving season, and therefore increased lot size going through the livestock market or direct marketing those calves. And that can be anywhere to $10 to $15 a hundredweight with bigger lot size. And here's the graph, and you guys got it on your paper. Whenever we mention bigger lot size, really lot sizes over 6 head or more. So it doesn't take a lot of calves to make a bigger lot size, but it's important anytime we have any numbers over 5 or 6 head, we can get a premium on those calves. Some management tools that I think are easy to do and really aren't that expensive are vaccinations. Passed out that brochure of our OQBN program, and that's a pretty typical VAC 45 vaccination procedure of any of these programs within the United States. It's pretty conservative cost, about $2 a shot, $2 a head for each of those shots. It's important right now. These growers and feeders are seeing 8 to 10% death loss, and that's huge, and we're contributing that to the drought for the lack of immunoglobulins being passed on to those calves. A lot of those calves that were destined for wheat pasture never left the grower yard this year, and we did see those higher death loss. You guys would be amazed how many people don't dehorn or castrate their calves prior to the sale barn. And I think these are two of the easiest management techniques that we can utilize. And basically, the younger we do it, the less stress it is on those calves if we do decide to precondition those calves later on. They're not going to be coming off feed as much. And again, here's the price slide. This is the price slide of the Oklahoma average last week, just from steers to bulls, and anywhere from $15 to $20 a hundredweight between those steers and bulls. So very cost-effective management tool, which, like I said, you'd be amazed how many producers don't utilize that. One question I get all the time with these VAC 45 programs where calves have to be weaned 45 days, it doesn't pay. And my answer is yes. Even in times where we're paying $430 a ton for some starter ration over at A&M Feeds and Stillwater to $150 to $200 a ton of hay, it does pay. One thing we do need to remember is those calves can't be stagnant. We have to wean those calves in maybe a fence line weaning system. Maybe we've already banded them at birth. And so those calves hopefully will start hitting the feed bunk soon after we precondition them. We don't want them off feed very long. So what we need to remember in this is these calves have to be gaining. We have to get 2 pounds or more average daily gain out of these calves or more. If we can get up to 2.5 to 3 pounds a day, a preconditioning program really does pay, even with these high feed costs. But then again, we have to have these calves gaining, and we can do some things to control those feed costs. Byproduct feeds. I know I just was up by Ponca, and a guy had gone to Kansas to get some $150 a ton alfalfa that he was mixing with some distillers grains and a little bit of fat, and was getting some nice gain on his calves. So there's some things we can do to reduce feed cost in a preconditioning program. The other thing that I like about a preconditioning program, and I don't know if Lawman talked about it, I assume he did, is about early weaning these calves in drought condition. You try to get those cows to breed back. And the longer we can put gain on these calves, the more profitable it'll be. That if we can keep the cost of gain down and the value of gain up, which it has been, a preconditioning program looks better and better. This is a study from Purdue University. This is over a 15-year period, and keep in mind, Indiana was not in drought conditions when this study took place. They do see preconditioned net returns of $80 a head, and they had these calves gaining, and they were gaining, I think, 3.2 pounds a day. So they were gaining very nicely. And their feed cost was actually through the roof. That feeding hay about $70 a head. That's pretty expensive. That's pretty expensive. So this is a nice example of a preconditioning program. And producers that participate in OQBN this year did see profits and are able to do it well.
In fact, this year we saw the biggest premiums we've ever observed in the OQBN program. For the very reasons you mentioned, that all these early weaned calves coming off with no immunity, and the guys that did have wheat or that were looking to put lighter weight calves in the feedlot, they were paying ridiculous amounts for these preconditioned calves. It was the biggest premium. So we saw sales where we would see $25, $30 premium. And so when we collected data again on all the OQBN sales this year.
Yeah, and Eric, the other thing, and we haven't completed yet, but we send out surveys to all the buyers, and we've gotten many of those back, not all of them. And these buyers have been very happy with those calves. The buyers are very happy to pay that premium just to reduce any death loss or any morbidity in the feedlots. Because $3 a cc for a shot of Draxxin is pretty expensive, and that's not the only one out there. The other thing that I find that producers do not use, and we'll get into this a little bit more too, is implants and ionophores. And the ranch that I did manage for OSU, we had ionophores, we had rumensin and everything we're feeding to the cows, to the calves, I mean everything. We didn't let our horses eat it, but that's beside the point. Lawman's horse ate some. Anyway.
Might be the highest profit thing you did.
Dump some of those cubes out on the ground, yeah. Anyway, if we're going to implant these calves, a suckling calf only gets about 0.12 pounds a day. And that's great, but where it's really important is to get those calves at weaning. We have to implant those calves at weaning to see that 8 to 20% increase of efficiency. And you might say, well, it's pretty broad range of efficiency, and it is. And it's well known that implants work better if there's high quality forage available. And I guess my thought now is if we have some fall calves that we're thinking about weaning now, we implant those calves, and in times of drought, we're coming up on the best pasture we're going to have all year long. And we really need to take advantage of that as much as we can. And whether we retain those calves, only till May or June, it's still worth it to us. Using an ionophore and an implant, we can gain about ½ a pound a day on a weaned calf. So very important. And I think it's funny, feedlots, I would say 99.9% of feedlots use it. Wouldn't you, Greg?
Sure. Where
maybe 15 or 20% of cow-calf guys use it. So I think it's a good example of we're not using some technologies that we ought to be. And again, preconditioning program, here are some numbers of why those guys are willing to pay $13.5 premium over a non-preconditioned calf. We have less sick, less dead in our average daily gain. That 0.3 of average daily gain is pretty big in the feedlot. It's pretty big. In the feed conversions, quite a bit better. Quite a bit better. Now, I have some other numbers on this that we did a study at OSU over natural and conventional methods. I'll show you in just a second. So Again, seasonal price patterns of a preconditioned calf, I don't want to spend too much on that. Marketing options, of course, the livestock markets, we still sell the majority of our cattle in Oklahoma. Internet and video sales, every livestock market has a video sale anymore. They're very prominent. Internet sales have become more and more, and a lot of those just tend to, they post them on the internet just like Craigslist, and then it's a direct sale, basically is what it is. So there's many more options than just the old livestock market. So getting more into value-added programs. All value-added programs are documentation of what we've done. That's why those records are so important, because that's really all we're doing. We're just documenting we've done what we said we've done. There's the health management verification programs that work well with the early weaning program like OQDN Back 45, and this is not the only program. There's many health verification programs in the United States. Agent source verifications, like I said, has been popular in past years. Production system verification would be the natural or organic type beef, never ever 3 programs, and a genetic system verification, which is through breed associations, and then if you verify genetically, say through Red Angus Association, they usually have a market outlet, for those Red Angus type calves. And this is what I mean why documenting what we've done is important. I'm in the sale barn all the time, and they say they've been weaned and given all their shots. Well, maybe they were weaned on the way to the sale barn, and maybe had a shot of blackleg when they're about 2 months of age. So really, what does it mean? We don't know, is the point. And here's some example of preconditioning programs. We did about 3,500 head last year with OQBN. We did a few more than that last year, or just a couple hundred head more. And then 3 years ago, we did about 10,000 head. So the drought has taken a toll on the numbers that we have in the program. One thing that I did notice about this year is that we had more producers participate. So I think the buy-in, people have really bought into our program, and I believe in it. And so each producer has less calves, but we have more producers in it, and I think that's just a sign of that. Anyway, Superior Livestock internet auction, they do about 140,000 head of verified, health verified cattle a year. Another one pretty predominant is the Noble Foundation Integrity Beef. They don't make it in this part of this side of Oklahoma very much, but they did about 2,000 to 2,500 head this last year through their program. So there's several options out there. I just wanted to touch on agent source verification. Last summer, you agent source verified your calves for about $4 a head, and it's still going to cost you $4 a head now. But at the packer would see between a $30 and $35 a head premium of agent source verification. And you guys probably know, as of February 1st, Japan opened their market from 20 months of age to 30 months of age and allow that older beef into their market. And so really this is really taking away any premiums for the agent source verification. Some of these companies like IMI Global and Micro Beef are still trying to agent source verify calves because they're saying if a calf is agent source verified, then by default it's got to be a quality calf. And that's probably true, but at $4 a head, I think we could better spend that money somewhere else because, like I said, we probably are not going to get that premium back on agent source verification. So anyway, I do get a lot of questions about natural and organic beef, and natural is just like it says up here, is without growth promotants and antibiotics, and these both have to be verified through a USDA approved company, and that would be like IMI Global, Micro Beef, and some others. But you can use ionophores as a coccidia stat and natural beef program. Whereas an organic beef program, the whole system has to be verified through an outside company. Is the difference between natural and organic. And once again, we are seeing a few premiums, and I'll show you that. And this study, Casey Maxwell is our manager of our Sparks feedlot. Him and Chris Richards work together on this program, and you can see up here that these calves, they're from this part of the country. They went to wheat pasture last year, which there was pretty nice wheat pasture, so at least that was an option. And you can see our average daily gain on wheat was 2.29 versus 2.70 pounds a day. And let me back up. The natural, there was nothing done to these calves. They may have been vaccinated and dewormed. I think that's it. The conventional calves were on a mineral with an ionophore, rumensin, and they were implanted with Revlar Gold, I believe. Anyway, average daily gain was substantially more on that wheat pasture, as you would expect. Going into the feedlot, conventional calves weighed more, and the final feedlot body weight was quite a bit more, as you would expect. And then look at the feed to gain, 7.43 versus 6.15. That's pretty substantial going into the feedlot. They still didn't make any money on the conventional calves in the feedlot, but they didn't lose as much money in this scenario comparing the two. And I'll show you the premiums we got on the natural beef too. So the natural calves cost of gain was about $1.15 a pound, compared to $1.04 a pound for the traditional calves. Pretty significant. Total cost of gain, of course, is more for the traditional calves, and I don't know what the exact value of gain of those calves would be. But anytime you have more gain, you have more value. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of really what we want to look at. Really, the only important part of this slide is the 76-66 difference versus conventional and natural beef. The conventional calves still were more profitable than natural calves, and that's with a $140 head premium. And this is a ranch that markets many cattle via natural beef, hundreds of thousands of cattle via natural beef, and they established this premium while those calves were hitting the ground. This premium was established before they even went to the feedlot. And so an individual producer that may only have 20 to 30 head are going to have a very hard time getting a natural beef premium of that $140 bucks a head. Saying it can't be done, but the point of the story is, I feel like in drought times we have to use the technologies available to us, unless we're very good at marketing our cattle, which most producers that I run into aren't using these tools, and they're still just dropping calves off out of the trailer at the local sale barn. And so we're leaving a lot of money on the table. This is basically the end-all be-all of that slide. So drought meetings are kind of doom and gloom to me, so I thought I would try to leave on an uplifting thought, and these are just some of my thoughts. You guys may agree or disagree. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I think that's the end-all take-all message. But what if it does rain? More acres are in corn and soybeans now than there's been in years and years, because of the high cost of those grains. So hopefully, if it does start to rain, we're going to have abundant amounts of grain production. I don't know how ethanol is going to affect that. We're going to have low numbers of cattle. It'll be slow herd building, so hopefully demand will still be high. We'll have a bunch to feed cattle, and replacement heifers, I think, are going to be the new gold. In fact, Eric, I don't know, there may be we may see a price influx between steers and heifers. I don't know, but those heifers are going to be very valuable once it does start to rain. And again, I think it's an opportunity for younger farmers and ranchers to get involved, hopefully when this drought does subside someday.
She missed the early start. We're looking 8 or 10 years.
Oh, did we? Okay, well, they'll be old guys by the time that happens, so I didn't miss it. But anyway, that's about it, guys. If I can help you, if you're interested in OQBN or have questions about it, please let me know.
Any questions for Gant? Just one thing, we do have some software on the web up there for calculating or budgeting and doing a value-added program. It says it's OQBN, but it'll work for any value-added program, or in fact, it'll work just fine if you want to look at, what about backgrounding some animals or something like that, or running Dave's numbers through where he talks about doing the early weaning of a high concentrate diet. That software is on the web, and you can use that with your growers. Contact us if you have trouble finding it.
And it's very easy to use. I use it all the time. So I think Eric.
You're the one.
Yeah, I'm the one. I use it all the time.
Any more questions for Gant? All right, I just want to wrap up. I'm not going to take a lot of your time because you've been in here for about 6 hours now. And what I keep hearing when we do these types of programs is that we should be telling our producers to manage for options. And when I go out and talk with producers, educators, whomever, I keep saying, manage this year as though it's the driest year you've ever seen, and that next year's going to be worse, and the year after that's going to even be worse than that. Kind of depressing story, but if we hope for good weather, that's not a very good strategy for surviving if the good weather doesn't come. But if we manage as though we've got this pervasive and worsening drought, if you do get rain, there's options then. We can run grass stockers. We can stockpile forage for the winter. We can bale and sell hay. You've got options. But if you don't manage as though this is what's going to happen, your options go down to 0. You just have to sell more and more and more cows. And in the process, you damage the natural resource that's there, and you further diminish future production opportunities. So even when the rain does come and other guys rebound in a year, that producer's looking at 2-3 years to rebuild their forage. So that's the message that I hear when I listen to guys like Darren and Dave talk, and from an economics perspective, it just is the right risk management approach to take. So, I passed out the evals. If you filled them out, you can either leave them there or just put them in the back on your way out. And if there's portions of this that you would like the group to put together, come out and do county meetings, you know how to get a hold of us. So, thanks much, guys.
I'll set by the next time.